Hey, Dr. Honeycutt, this is my presentation about how the teachers reacted when their student showed them that video about school. So, when it came to body language and just their reactions, I remember the female teacher, whenever the narrator was talking about the trinomials in math, the mitochondria in science, and I saw her grin and the narrator was talking about, oh, I'm so glad I remembered this. Just thinking, how useful is this in everyday life? So I could tell that she really connected with that. And then the older male teacher, there's always the question from his students, is this going to be on the test? And whenever that part came up, you could just see, he had a look and he kind of laughed as well. And then especially whenever the student brought up the works cited page and MLA format because, they said that's the only thing you'll accept. And, I remember that growing up, you always had to have everything cited a certain way or, wouldn't be accepted. And then they talked about time management, and you could just see the teachers thinking, that really is true. We give all these assignments and we expect so much from the kids and their seat time, them being at their desk working on everything. But really, are we showing them how to manage their time wisely? And I could kind of see the female teacher. She just kind of stopped, and you could just see the gears turning in her head about thinking, how does this relate to my class? And she might have even been thinking, well, how could she make things better for her students? Um, Another thing I noticed was, especially in math, when you're not showing your work, the teacher marks it wrong and throws it back just like you would throw a fish back if you went fishing, because you're not, the kids aren't showing you the formula you taught them how to work it out. That has to be that certain way, or you're not going to accept it. And then they talked about facts versus self care, and you could just see how the teachers felt about that because it's so important. We give the kids all this information, but then how does that reflect on how they live their lives and what they do for themselves and focus on themselves, and then how we handle the kids being bullied, how they handle stress and how they handle rejection. So you could just kind of see how the teachers realize that these are important issues. And especially the part about the kitchen and the kid was saying, well, I don't know how to cook, because those are real life skills that, most schools don't have home economics anymore. I know whenever I went through school, I was so busy with academics, I didn't have time to take a class like that. And now that I have my own home, I have my own family, I really wish that I had taken more time for those things. Um, and it really just spoke volumes, the last two things. I can see this from all the teachers. Your future's not something that any test can measure, and you've got to remember the kid in the back of the class. Don't just judge them on their scores because a kid isn't a test score. If you support them and believe in them and show them that you care, they truly can go above and beyond, how they're doing in your class. And then as far as the different philosophies, the first teacher, I wasn't sure if they were the oldest, but I kind of got the vibe that they were a history teacher, possibly. And he just mentioned, it's not new information. Looking at all the, historical timelines, school was created to create factory workers. Whenever everything was being industrialized, to really basically like a supply line. And so that kind of just made sense because of how American schools are. And all of his students always, even the parents, want to know the answers and they want to clarify and make sure they understand what's really going to be on that test. And he made a good point because he has seen so many things come and go, and he just said, society has to work together to basically change this mindset. And he's right because if we don't all work together, it's always going to be that same way. The second teacher, I really liked her bringing up the multiple intelligences because that just kind of goes beyond what the other two teachers said, because she was talking about how she really values each student and what they value in their own learning. And she said she wanted to give them room to grow because she knew that once they had that, amount of discovery and time to just get to know um, what they can learn academically and what they're good at, they would kind of gravitate towards their own skills and passions that they would enjoy learning about, and also their ways of learning. And she really brought up about how the kid at the back of the classroom is so important for them, because they are a part of our world, our educational, philosophy. They're the ones that we're there every day for. And she talked about Albert Einstein and Beethoven and how all these important people that are so famous and they made, discoveries and they invented things. Beethoven was deaf. Einstein, he possibly had some kind of autism, but if they had been ignored, you know, that whole outlook, that whole historical timeline could have been different. So it was good that she brought up how important they all really are. And then the third teacher, I really think he was the youngest. And he just kind of said, it's just like a hoop you have to jump through. And I feel like lately there have been so many hoops that even the teachers have to jump through just to say we've done it. And I kind of wonder, is it really just for the sake of doing it, or should there really be a true purpose behind whatever we're doing? Um, and I kind of agree with what he said about, even though they don't really show us how to do taxes or do a mortgage, you know, the things we do in class can indirectly go with things we're going to do one day as adults. So I kind of feel like I understand how he's saying that, but I also understand how kids can be so confused and how none of it makes sense and they just don't see how it all goes together. And then he talked about how, students, they're going to forget what you teach. And I mean, I know with my, time as a student in elementary school, I don't really remember much about what we did, but I remember the high points of things that I enjoyed. I remember even in pre-kindergarten and preschool, we had some kind of gingerbread. We baked cookies, and the cookies disappeared from the oven, and we had to go on this whole mystery adventure to figure out who stole the cookies. And I just, I don't remember what else I did, but I remember those highlights of things that I really enjoyed. So I really think it may not be what the kids always learn, but it's what they enjoy doing and understanding with you. And also they remember how you treated them. That's so important. Um, and so that kind of went with the last thing he said was about how it's so important about thinking about how our students learn to help them grow, because, in the end, we're just the guide and they're the ones who are going to be leading their own lives. So this was a very enlightening video, seeing their perspectives and how they thought about everything. So I really enjoyed it, and I also enjoyed seeing their reactions.